As the release of Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shine Pearl are around the corner, I decided to do a Pokemon Pearl Nuzlocke randomized run. The rules in this run are that if any of my Pokemon faint, they're considered dead, and I'm only ever able to use the 6 Pokemon in my party. This means no storing Pokemon in a PC. Only the first Pokemon encountered on each route can be caught, excluding the static encounters such as fossil Pokemon or legendary encounters like at Spear Pillar. The encounters were randomized, trainers' Pokemon were randomized, abilities were randomized, items were randomized, as well as team compatibility. I did a race against one of my friends for this, however the focus will be on my run as there's no footage of his. The run started out like any other. Pick a starter to fight off your first encounter, and the choices for me were Dragonair, Mawile or Poliwag, so the choice seemed quite obvious. After this battle, it was then talk to Professor Rowan before officially obtaining that picked Pokemon as my starter. From here I had to tell my mum that some professor was sending their 10-year-old kid on an adventure across the world, and then have Dawn teach me how to catch a Pokemon before the run officially began. Route 201 was the first route that I was able to catch anything, and the first encounter for this challenge would be an Onix. This didn't go to plan and ended up killing it rather than wasting too many of my Pokeballs on it and proceed to the next route instead. Route 202 would have a combi for me to catch, which I did, and it became the first addition to my team. The problem with this combi though was that it was a male. This means that there was no way of progressing with it, as I could never fully evolve it and make it worthwhile. I made sure to keep it as a backup until I had something else that could be a better member to the team, or I could later use as a sacrifice. Upon reaching Jubilife City, I was then able to have some more encounters to improve the team. This also meant I could get the valuable item known as the Old Rod. This meant that I was able to fish in areas that weren't where Pokemon would normally spawn, such as cities. I did some story stuff in Jubilife City, then went to Route 218, which I caught a Loudred from fishing as my first encounter for the route. Now, as this route is repeated later in the game to serve across, I have already used my encounter on this route, which means whatever is in the grass on the other side or in the water via surf, I am not able to catch. Progressing through the story any further meant that I would have to fight my rival, so I did a bit of training beforehand to ensure that Dragonair was able to take his team without having to sacrifice Combi or Loudred too early. After the rival battle, I caught a Caterpie on Route 203, proving that so far only my starter had been decent and had no way of getting any stronger until level 55 when it would become a Dragonite. Whilst trying to level up Caterpie to become a Butterfree, I lost my first Pokemon I caught, Combi. He was used as a sacrifice to save the Caterpie from a bite attack that the Kricketot was waiting to unleash. Before heading through the cave to Orberg Town, I trained my Caterpie to become a Butterfree so that it would then be more useful in fights, especially with the first gym battle just around the corner. On the way to Orberg Town whilst travelling through Orberg Gate, I encountered a Shinx which would later prove to the world that it was nearly unbeatable. I would also manage to catch an Arcanine in Orberg Mines to add to the team prior to the gym battle against Rourke. Before the gym battle, I evolved my Shinx into Luxio so that Dragonair would have some backup and then proceed to take on Rourke. This wouldn't matter anyway, as Dragonair swept his whole team with Dragon Rage, as would be expected. After defeating Rourke, I made my way to Four Armor Town where I beat up some of the Team Galactic and continued to progress. After this, I caught a Tyrogue on Route 205 and said goodbye to Loudred as I wanted a free slot for my next potential encounter. One thing I'd forgotten about this game was the amount of double battles that occurred, which I quickly realised once I'd entered Eterna Forest. As the encounters are completely random, the 2 Pokemon you're up against could both easily outclass any Pokemon that Cheryl and I would throw out. This also means there are a lot of double trainer battles too, which also could lead to poor matchups. I managed to get through Eterna Forest with Luxio leading the way and make it to Eterna City. I begin training Tyrogue and in the process it happens to faint to yet another Kricketot's bite attack. I get a Zapdos as my first encounter while I was fishing in Eterna City, however I'd forgotten to buy any Pokeballs and had to kill it. I then challenge Gardenia, or better known as Artisan Mia, and sweep a whole team with Dragonair and its Dragon Rage, much like the first gym battle. I head to Route 211 and catch a Mawile, which I can use as a HM slave since there's no Fairy type or Megas yet in the game, and let's not forget that Ori rejected Mawile as my starter choice. I beat up Team Galactic to send a message that I will one day rule time and space instead, and then make my way out of Eterna City. I managed to pick up a Slacking in Wayward Cave and then send my Arcanine to the PC so I'm able to try and pick up a new Pokemon on my journey. On the way to Hearthome City, I catch a Flygon and my Luxio also manages to evolve into Luxray, giving me 2 strong additions to the team. Slacking is the next PC sacrifice for encounters and is quite a low level and it'd only be a pain to level up, despite its high stat total. I fight my rival before obtaining an egg from some random hiker and proceed to break across Hearthome City waiting for it to hatch. Upon hatching, it turns out to be a Nidoking, which I get rid of almost instantly as no Stone Evolution Gen 1 Pokemon learn any new moves. I entered a contest with Luxray to try and assert my dominance among the people of Sinnoh, and I definitely won the contest.
What the fuck is this?
Dance competition had a stinker, yeah. You want to bring her back in third. Oh, fuck! You want, we'll go next time.
You really suck at that, huh?
After leaving Hearthome City, I caught a Mudkip, found a fossil, and removed Butterfree from the team. I then went back to Orberg Town to receive the fossil, which turned out to be Mantine, who I swiftly moved straight into the PC. This might also be a good time to point out that since all the items are random, any of the items found on the floor could potentially be fossils, which means that there are multiples of the same fossil, as well as fossils you wouldn't normally get until post-game, which can help with encounters as they are all technically static or gift Pokemon. After this, I made my way up to Solaceon Town. In Solaceon Town, I went through the ruins in which I caught a Gloom and was able to pick up one of the best items that I just didn't know about yet, the Pokédoll. I moved the Gloom into the PC as I thought it would be better to have another encounter elsewhere, as it was the worst on my team other than my HM Slive Mawile. I went through the Lost Tower and caught a Togetic, which was convenient as my now Marshtomp had just been killed in a double battle. Through this adventure though, I was able to find another fossil, which after reviving at Orberg Town, turned out to be an Aggron, which was added to the team, replacing Togetic, so a free spot was still left open for future encounters. I caught a Carvanha on Route 215 to make up my 6th Pokemon until I was able to get another encounter. Whilst training for the 3rd gym battle however, my Flygon was killed instantly by a wild Carvanha that knew Ice Fang, thus one-shotting it. Then the battle afterwards, my Carvanha was killed by an Execute via Bullet Seed. Whilst heading south of Veilstone City to try and catch what limited Pokemon I was able to get before the 3rd gym, I managed to kill all the encounters I had as I didn't want any of the Pokemon that were offered. Whilst doing this, I also managed to lose my Aggron, thus leaving my team with just 3 Pokemon. I decided my best bet is just to make sure that my Luxray and Dragonair were at a decent enough point so that they would be able to do the gym almost entirely by themselves. Maylene, or better known in this version as Artisan Webster, opened up with a Shroomish, which went down in 2 turns, but a second Pokemon flipped this whole run upside down. A Donphan that couldn't have been any more bulky. I'll let the fight speak for itself.
What have you done here, man?
It got a critical hit. It got magnitude 7 critical hit and almost one-shot him. It's all good, this is the highest level one they got, I'm pretty sure, I hope.
Wait, you left your dragon here though, Max?
Yeah, I did.
You're so behind now!
I've got one ridiculously over-leveled Pokemon.
Luxray was able to finish off the Donphan and then kill the Masquerain that followed afterwards, but the lead up to obtaining the 3rd gym badge had clearly left its stamp, with just my Luxray and HM Slave Mawile remaining. I then went to reassert my dominance over Team Galactic so that Dawn could get her Pokédex back and they would once again fear me, afterwards being able to grab the HM for Fly. I taught it to my Mawile and began to backtrack to areas I didn't previously have an encounter, such as fishing in Twinleaf Town and fishing on Route 219. From this, I only kept one of the encounters, which was a Castron from Twinleaf Town, and then killed a Beautifly from Route 219, as I didn't have any desire for either Pokemon. I flew back to Veilstone and made my way down to Pastoria. All while doing this, my Luxray was only getting stronger as it was the only thing on my team able to do much. I managed to catch a Tauros on Route 213 on my way through, and in the Great Marsh, I managed to have a Lugia for my first encounter, which was quite possibly one of the most infuriating and annoying encounters I've ever had in my life, and here is why.
You're not gonna get it.
Come on, bitch. I really need this.
Yeah, you really do. It's dragon on water, right?
Lugia.
Yeah.
Flying and psychic.
It's on dragon on water? That would make more sense. I don't care. I love it. Max, strongest Pokemon. What the hell is that, bro?
Hardos.
Oh, I critically one-shot it. I just one-shot his whole team with one.
Fuck you, I'm throwing mod at you. I've only got 2 balls left.
Max, I used 4 Dragon Balls and his whole team is gone.
I went straight through Pastoria City to Route 212 to see what I could possibly get before the 4th gym, even if it were to just sacrifice it for healing. But it turned out to be a jinx, and there's no way I'm letting that thing on my team, regardless of what happens. I went all the way through to Trophy Garden where I managed to catch a Bagon, then headed back to Pastoria to start battling the trainers prior to my fight with Crash Awake, which after doing the trainer fights I realised I was quite over leveled on Luxray as he was already level 41, and decided to just take the fight straight afterwards. Luxray easily took down all the Pokemon as he by chance opened with 2 water types anyway, followed by a Wigglytuff, all at a significantly lower level than what my Luxray was currently at. After the gym battle, I beat up another Team Galactic grunt to show them that I'm in business when it comes to taking over the world, and then got some drugs from the Pokemon champion herself, Cynthia, for some Psyducks that were causing some trouble up north. I made my way up from Solaceon Town towards Celestic Town, where I went for a fish and caught myself a Togetic before meeting some Gilf telling me about ancient legends. After this, I fought the trainers to the west of Celestic Town and then flew back to Home City to take on the 5th gym. I got through all the trainers very easily for some free XP, and then challenged Fantina with my level 47 Luxray that I knew she wouldn't be able to do anything against. Luxray manages to sweep the team once again, and Cynthia thanks me not knowing what I'd just done to that Gilf up in Celestic Town, also while telling me to head to Canalave as that is where the story shall progress. I realise that Togetic now is potentially just going to be a hassle as I don't have a shiny stone or any definitive way of getting one as all the items are random, so I throw it in the PC to be dead to me forever. Prior to Canalave City, I catch a Tentacruel surfing on Route 220, which isn't in the party for very long. I also catch a Jumpluff whilst fishing Canalave and a Stantler fishing outside of the Iron Islands. All these Pokemon face the PC in which they are now deemed dead to me. Inside the Iron Islands, I managed to catch a Yanmega, Bagon manages to evolve into Shelgon, and I help Riley navigate through the cave, beat up some more Team Galactic, find a fossil, and then obtain an egg from Riley afterwards. I then bike up and down Canalave to hatch the egg, which hatches into a Jumpluff, and it straight back into the PC for it. Then I go and restore the fossil I found in the Iron Islands, which happens to be the prehistoric and ancient Pokemon known as Snorunt. Before taking on the 6th gym, I decide to try and level up some of my other Pokemon as I believe my Luxray may not cut it for soloing the rest of the game, and I may need some coverage on my team. My focus was getting Shelgon and Castform to both be stronger as they had decent coverage movesets to disrupt any weakness that my Luxray may struggle against. I beat all the trains in the gym and was left with the leader, who I managed to beat with Castform beating his Dratini, Luxray beating a Kingler, and Shelgon beating a Blissey. Afterwards, some Magikarp are being blown up at the lakes and I'm forced to go save them from Team Galactic, although I believe they're doing the right thing. Before flying off, I remove Yanmega and Snorunt from my party as I would rather some future encounters and they don't serve any purpose to me currently. I destroy Team Galactic at Lake Valor and then make my way over to Lake Verity where the Professor and Dawn seem to be too weak to beat Team Galactic themselves. Whilst there, I managed to fish up a Piloswine which I add to the team and then beat Team Galactic and asked to be their leader rather than Cyrus as I know I'm better, to which they say, no, get fucked. I make my way through Mount Coronet to Route 216 where I managed to catch a Porygon 2. In this game there have been impossible evolutions turned on, which means if I have a dubious disc I'm able to evolve. Which it turns out I only had an upgrade and no guarantee of getting a dubious disc throughout the run at all. I killed my first encounter for Route 217 and replaced my cast form for my Acuity Lakefront encounter, which was a cloister. However, I get rid of this cloister instantly. I fly back to the Valley Windworks for first encounter, which I managed to get a Swallow, which I both catch and then kill by putting in my PC afterwards. Prior to the 7th gym, I thought it would be good to level up some of my Pokemon again so that they are ready of what's to come. This turned out to be one of the biggest mistakes of my run, due to one very bad encounter with a Regigigas. Now this Regigigas was only level 36, so it should be fine considering I have level 56 Luxray, but in Gen 4, Confusion has a 50% chance to hit itself. After hitting itself 3 times in a row due to Confusion and a misplay as Regigigas happened to have the Volt Absorb ability, my Luxray was killed, who was the clear carry of the team. I had to then desperately just send out Pokemon, hoping that one would outspeed and take the last slither of health that this Regigigas had. Porygon went down to Superpower, and luckily Piloswine survived a stomp and managed to kill. However, I lost 2 Pokemon alone to this one wild Pokemon right before the gym fight. As I forgot my Mawile had Fly, I ran through the grass on the way to the Pokemon Center to heal Piloswine and had another encounter occurred against the Caesar, which I was able to beat although taking some damage, then a Togekiss encounter which almost killed my Shelgon. With still quite a bit of grass to get through, I weighed up my odds and then finally realized that my HM slave Mawile knew Fly and flew straight over to Snow Point City so that I wouldn't have to risk an encounter that would kill what was left of my team. I started thinking of some places I hadn't been to yet to try and get an encounter before the gym and concluded my best bet was to evolve Shelgon into Salamence, as due to both the level and strength it would be, it could then solo the upcoming gym, so back to training I went. This turned out to be a stupid idea as I ran straight into a Togekiss which caused a flinch with Air Slash on my Shelgon. My Zen Headbutt did half the health the next turn, I was already in red and slower. In a desperate attempt to try and heal, I sent out Piloswine who was instantly killed by an Aura Sphere, forcing me to switch into my HM Slave Mawile. After looking through the items and realizing I had no healing, I found my savior for the game, a Pokédoll. This item would instantly make the battle end and wouldn't technically be me using the run button or feature to do so. I flew back, bought some potions and then trained against some trainers on Route 217 by soloing with Shelgon. Whilst training my Shelgon, I ran into a Cloister which decided to avenge the one that I'd killed by putting in my PC that landed a critical hit Aurora Beam, killing my Shelgon. This meant I was down to only my HM Slave Mawile, while luckily I had another Pokédoll to get away, but this then left me with only my Mawile, which only had HMs. This was the start of a new chapter. I flew to Canalave City to get to the move deleter so I was able to remove Defog, which I was able to replace with Poison Tail that I had a TM for. I then gave Mawile a lucky egg I had picked up along the way and training began to make it the strongest Mawile that has been seen prior to Mega Evolutions. While frantically trying to find places that I hadn't had an encounter yet, I realized that I was still able to fish in Pastoria, so I flew straight over there because any Pokemon currently would be good, even if it were for a sacrifice, which happened to be a Hoppip, the Pokemon which I'd already neglected the fully evolved form of twice. I managed to evolve Hoppip into Skiploom, which was a start, but then shortly after it was beaten in a trainer battle that I wasn't expecting whilst looking around for potential items that could be fossils. Once again, leaving me with just Mawile. I realized that doing this leveling was such a long grind, and so instead I put Mawile in the daycare and cycled up and down constantly to ensure no encounters since the combi I put in my party is technically dead. Mawile went in at level 34 and I cycled enough for it to get to level 41 before realizing that this method was in fact far too inefficient and I was better off just fighting wild Pokemon and risking the feint. After a lot of grinding and leveling, I was ready to fight Candace with my now level 64 Mawile, which thanks to the move deleter now knew Thunder Punch, Crunch, Fly and Iron Head, make it no longer a HM slave and instead the savior of the run. Mawile managed to sweep Candace's team, although a Warring Nita Queen was switched in that luckily didn't use or possibly even know any ground type moves. I then taught it Rock Climb so that I was able to progress and made my way to Lake Acuity, where I was able to luckily have another encounter. I managed to catch a Licky Licky, which I was almost forced into teaching HMs so I could make it further into the game. I then flew to Veilstone, where I made my way through Team Galactic's headquarters to try and once again join, but after being denied, was sent into a fury of rage and tried instead to destroy them and everything that they have and stand for. While there, I found an old amber which I used to revive an Aggron, which at level 20 isn't very useful, but later on it could help, or even for HMs. It was clear that Moal was still very strong and was able to sweep the leader of Team Galactic, Arta Sonya's team, all by itself. After being defeated, Sonya gave me the Master Ball and I then went on to free the Lake Trio. I then made my way up Mount Coronet, on my way to Spear Pillar to catch the one thing in this game they desired. At Spear Pillar, I beat the whole Goon squad as Palkia was summoned, and then afterwards faced Arta Sonya again, in which Aggron went down. I managed to catch Palkia without having to use my Master Ball by paralysing through Moal's ability Static and throwing an Ultra Ball. Because of this, it meant that I was then able to have an encounter at Lake Valor, and I was able to initiate battles with the Lake Trio who would be randomized into other legendaries. At Lake Valor, I was able to catch a Pupitar, which was a very good addition to the team as it essentially replaced Shelgon as the Cocoon Pokemon, leading up to a pseudo-legendary. I then challenged a Zelf, who got randomized into a Zapdos, which I felt wasn't worthy of the Master Ball, so after many balls being broke out of, I killed. I then flew up to the infamous Snow Point City, where I made my way to Uxie at Lake Acuity, by which Chance became Azelf, the other Lake Trio member. This battle didn't go well as it knew Nasty Plot and I was too stubborn to use my Master Ball. After breaking out of so many balls and maxing out its special attack with Nasty Plot, it managed to kill my Moal and then straight afterwards my Palkia. Before killing my Licky Licky or Pupitar, I used the Pokédoll to exit the fight before I was diminished to just one Pokemon, since I still believed I may have a better legendary encounter to use the Master Ball on a future route. I make my way to Route 222 where I encounter a Xatu and promptly catch it to increase the number of Pokemon on my team as I don't have many options left before the league. On my way through the route, I happen to get into a trainer battle accidentally where an opening Dusknoir then kills my Xatu almost straight after getting it, bringing me back down to just 2 Pokemon. As Pupitar is only level 29 and Licky Licky is only in the mid 30s, I decided it's best to train for a bit so my Pokemon are at least at the level they should be at this point in the game. I then remember on the southern water routes, so I fly over to Sagem Town and surf through to Route 220 and 221. Although, I realized in editing now and in the script writing that I'd already caught a Tentacruel on Route 220, so I kind of cheated a tiny bit here without realizing. But it doesn't make that much of a difference. I managed to catch a Wigglytuff on Route 220 and an Absol on Route 221, which also doubles the amount of Pokemon I currently have in my party. Whilst training, I managed to find another fossil which I take to Orberg Town to revive a Trico, which bumps my party back up to 5 Pokemon, leaving me in a good position for the ending of the game. While crossing Route 222 after some training, a compulsory trainer battle has the trainers Machamp kill Licky Licky, Wigglytuff and Absol, leaving me with just Grovyle and Pupitar left on my team, just before I'm needing to take on the 8th gym. I decide to fish in Sunyshore City, where I managed to catch a Medicham, which even at level 18 can still be used as a safe switch or even a free turn to heal, so it's better than nothing. And then I proceed to surf up to Route 223, where I'm able to catch a Machoke. After some training, I engage in a trainer battle to try and get more money and I end up losing Grovyle, Medicham and my now evolved Machamp to a Hippowdon, leaving me with only Pupitar as the solo carry. I level up Pupitar so it evolves into a Tyranitar and beat all the trainers in the gym to get it to level 60. Then I turn to my sorrows and resort to gambling at the Veilstone Game Corner. After gambling for a while and losing all of my money, I figured that my best bet is to just fly around to all the places on my Tyranitar and look for hidden items, hoping I'm able to get a fossil from any of them to increase my team size. Luckily in Snow Point City I find an old Amber which is once again used to revive yet another Aggron, which leaves one big problem in my team. Both of my Pokemon are 4 times weak to fighting type attacks. As I can now have a Pokemon I am able to teach Surf to without disrupting too much, I start surfing for items as well in different areas, hoping to find more fossils, in which I managed to find a Skull fossil on Route 214, which I used to revive another Trico. After some much needed training, I decide I'm ready for Volkner, or lesser known in this version as Artisan Jacqueline. My Tyranitar is now level 63, my Trico is now a Sceptile and level 50, and meanwhile my Aggron hasn't been used and is still just level 20. This battle was when I learnt the true power of Tyranitar. It swept through the fight, coming out victorious against Volkner's Aggron, Mantine, Tauros, and Alakazam. After this fight, I make my way up to Route 223 to just outside Victory Road, where I'm able to have an encounter up the waterfall, which happens to be a level 35 Zigzagoon. Entering Victory Road shortly after, I'm able to catch a Swellow as well to give me a total of 5 Pokemon. I make my way through Victory Road with ease and then manage to catch a Snorlax in the water on the other side, just before the main entrance to the league. I end up accidentally triggering the rival battle before the Elite Four, and I end up having Tyranitar and Sceptile give him a beatdown so that he knows his place in the world. I once again go on a fossil hunt, of which I end up getting another Aggron and Trico, as well as finding a Mantine in the fossils. On the fossil hunt, I also travel to Fugo Ironworks, where I managed to catch a Riolu. I end up getting rid of Snorlax and Linoone prior to this adventure, and I use that space for Mantine and Riolu, and at this point it is just the grind to maximize friendship so that I'm able to get a Lucario. After training for ages in Victory Road and getting Riolu from level 29 to 51, it still hadn't evolved, so I decided that regardless I'm just going to challenge the Elite Four, so I used any useful TMs I could, sold any random items I didn't need, and bought healing items instead. The first battle could not have gone any smoother. He opened with a Sudowoodo, whereas I opened with my Sceptile, giving me an immediate advantage in the fight. Tyranitar was then able to take down the remaining 4 Pokemon, being a Ninetales, Cloyster, Mawile, and Ursaring. Oh yeah, by the way, my Tyranitar is now level 73 from switch training that stupid Riol. The second Elite Four fight, however, could not have gone more poorly. Sceptile opened the fight yet again, however to a Snorlax this time, and was killed on the first turn by a Giga Impact. This meant that my second strongest Pokemon I had was now out, and I was only at the second fight. Tyranitar finished the Snorlax, and the next Pokemon was Venusaur. I switched into Swellow for a type mismatch, however it didn't matter and Swellow was also killed from Petal Dance, as was Aggron. I switched into Riolu, hoping for the last slither of health to be done easy, however the Venusaur was healed and Riolu went down shortly after to a Solar Beam. Tyranitar then had to finish the Venusaur itself, had a very close fight afterwards to a Gliscor, beat the Drapion, and then beat the Wigglytuff to win the fight. However, this now left me with just my Tyranitar and Mantine, which was only level 20, to beat the last 2 members of the Elite Four, as well as Cynthia at the end. Things were looking rather concerning. The third battle went very quickly, with Tyranitar sweeping in a very convincing fashion, and as did the fourth battle. This left only the champion Cynthia left, and all that had left was still my Tyranitar and Mantine. Cynthia opened up with Hippowdon, which left me in a mismatch, but luckily it used Double Edge rather than Earthquake or another ground type move. The next Pokemon was Caesar, which was easy to beat. After that, Tangrowth was sent out, which was easy to beat, however it had the move Tickle, which lowered Tyranitar's defense. This meant if any Pokemon that Tyranitar is weak to was sent out, it was sure to kill, especially it had a fighting type come out. After killing Tangrowth, I sacrificed Mantine so that Tyranitar's stats would reset, while Cynthia sent out Kabutops, which, despite the 40 level difference, couldn't one-shot Mantine with Mega Drain. The next turn, however, Kabutops used Slash to kill Mantine instantly, leaving Tyranitar now officially the sole survivor of the run. Kabutops fell to Tyranitar, and so did the Omastar that came out after. Came down to the 1v1, my ace versus Cynthia's ace, which was a Mew. After Tyranitar hit it with one crunch, the battle was over, with my team, or better known as just my Tyranitar, being solidified in the Hall of Fame after a total of 48 Pokemon deaths or sacrifice to the PC gods.